into the podcast. It's good to have you today, sir.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's equally an honor as well. And we were talking, he and I, before we started rolling, that how funny is this? They're in the middle of moving. He said he's going back to school, and his wife bought a new car. So it sounds like you have a lot keeping you busy. It sounds.
It's either that or she's trying to kill me. I don't know which one it is, but
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned school. Are you're taking classes as well, or were you joking about that?
no, actually, kind of to dovetail into what we were just talking about Last Man Standing, is when I got called the first time to play the character of Reverend Paul. Uh, and I had played a lot of characters on sitcoms and stuff, but this one really felt good, and I felt comfortable and felt organic. And for whatever reason, I decided to go back to college and get a degree in theology. In Because the first time I went to college, it didn't go well at all. It actually went great, but not for grades.
For other things, it went really
Yeah, so
well.
I enrolled in this online school in Arizona, Grand Canyon University, and I'm getting my bachelor's in Christian studies, and it's
Love it.
been really fun. I'm about to wrap it up. I got a class and a half, and I finally get that little piece of paper that says I graduated college.
That's fantastic. And Grand Canyon's a great school as well. Funny enough, I got a degree in biblical studies a long time ago when I was getting out of the military from the master's college. It was like a Bible certificate. So
Right.
I had plans to do one thing, and life happens, of course, and you kind of wind up doing other things. But I think that's great. Well, let's talk about Last Man Standing, because you have another story arc coming up here in the coming weeks. And one of the things that I like about your character, well, there's a lot of things. I mean, just the camaraderie you have with Nancy. We mentioned early on as well that she was with you on another show, and you were saying that you like to tease Tim and tell him how was it, or how is it filming your show, which is kind of ironic, I think.
Yeah. Like you said, who knows which way life's going to take you? And we did the Bill Engvall show for 3 seasons, and it was great. I had a blast. It was the last feather in my cap as far as achieving every goal I've ever set in front of me. And when and Tim is he's a megastar. I mean, it's I get
Yeah.
it. I totally get it. Um, and we have a great time. I shot one episode where it was me, Jay Leno, and Tim all on the same show, and man, that couldn't have been a more fun week because it was just a joke-a-thon, in
Oh, I'm
between takes.
sure.
Oh, and Leno's got all the old jokes, and it was just really a fun experience, and it continues to be. I hope that they're going to call me back for some more episodes before they finally put it in the can. And this episode that's coming up is interesting because it's interesting how this whole religion thing is kind of storyline is playing. And
Yes.
on the show, Kyle is getting ready to go into the ministry, and this episode is interesting because one of the things I love about this character is that Reverend Paul's really the only character that can go toe to toe with Mike. Mike has a very strong personality, but I got God on my side. So, it's and so this storyline is that we both, Mike and Reverend Paul, want Mike wants Kyle to go on a fishing trip with him, a hunting trip, because Kyle cooks and does all that,
Yes.
and I want Kyle to do some work around the church. And so it becomes this kind of inner battle between Mike and Reverend Paul about who's going to get Kyle. And in
I
the
love
and
it.
in the end, we both realized that we were both, uh, being very petty, and that Kyle is doing things because he wants to do them and because it makes people feel good. Just like he goes on the hunt trips because he knows it makes Mike feel good. He works at the church because he knows it makes me feel good. And one of my favorite scenes at the end of the scene is just me and Tim kind of looking at each other like, wow, we really stooped on that one. That was a low blow.
One of the things that I really like about your character and Kyle's character is over the seasons, he's kind of been the one that gets picked on a lot. It's changed over the years as it's progressed, but you have taken him under your wing as the minister, as the reverend, and shown him a little bit of a different side, a little bit of grace and things like that. So I like the fact that with you, there's a different dynamic, and he's matured over the years. He's grown up on the show. I was watching reruns a few days ago with my son back in the day when it first came out, and everybody has just grown on the show. And so
Right.
I'm kind of sad that it has ended, but I guess that's how it goes in Hollywood. Things come and go, and it's fun. And then, of course, you get to act with Nancy again, which is hilarious. I love it. When you first found out that you were going to be working together with her again, what was that like for you? Were you excited about it and like, this is going to be a lot of fun to be opposite of her again, just kind of on a different show and a different format?
Oh, without a doubt. One of the things that happens when you are on a show for multiple seasons is that you really become a family, if you will, with your TV family. I can remember, Jennifer Lawrence coming onto the show, and she was 15, 16 years old. And, you watch them grow. I watched one of the kids who played my son, Skylar Gisondo, who was in the wonderful movie, The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
And, I remember him when he was a 7-year-old little boy running around the set, so it's exciting when you get a chance to catch up with people again. Like Nancy and I have a really solid friendship, and she taught me a lot. She taught me a lot about acting. She taught me a lot about just how to carry myself around the set. And she's one of those ladies that will work till she decides she doesn't want to work. She can fit into any role, and she brings just nothing but 110%. And she's doing it on Tim's show right now, and it's always fun to see. And even in the few episodes I've done Reverend Paul, I've gotten to really establish a relationship with the rest of the cast as well. And it's always fun to see them, and they're always like, "Oh man, I saw you were back. We're so happy." So it's nice.
Yeah, it's a great show. And I like the fact that I can watch it with my 6-year-old. He likes it. He thinks it's funny. And, I don't have to worry about, pausing it or fast forwarding it. Or, I
Right.
mean, your kids are all grown now. So, but you get it because, they're a sponge, and it's funny that they just repeat things on both sides. And I get messages from one side and she gets messages from another. And sometimes I get text messages like, so Jared said this. Can you clarify that a little bit,
Yeah.
or explain it? I'm kind of trailing off here, but ironically, I said something to him, and you got it repeated back, and she's like, "That might not play very well for people who don't know him, so you got to be careful."
Oh yeah, kids are parrots.
Yeah,
I learned
100%.
that early on with mine. Well, and I got to tell you, Brent, that's one of the things. I'm proud of the show that because anybody can watch it. But that's always been my kind of my mantra is that
Yes,
even in my stand up, I don't want. I want to know. I want the family to know they can come. Now, there's stuff kids aren't going to get,
sure.
but what I don't do is I don't pander. I don't say stuff just for shock value. And if there is a joke that is, I always try to write a joke that maybe the parents will get it and the kids don't, or the kids think it's something completely different than what it really means. And I got to tell you, I'm interesting enough. I don't know, you may be too young to remember these, but HBO did these things years ago in the 80s called the HBO One Night Stands.
Yeah, I've seen reruns. I'm
Yeah,
46, so I've seen kind of reruns of them,
right.
YouTube clips.
Well, I've got turned down for every one I ever went up for because they said you're not edgy enough, you're not urban enough. And I was like, whatever. And now I've been doing this almost 40 years, plus 40 years. And so I know that the equation works. And that's what we did on Blue Collar too. The whole
Yeah.
mantra was that we have to do this so the whole family can come. And it's I hope that someday people will come back in bigger numbers to clean comedy. And there's a lot of hysterical people I wish I could do my show like Chris Rock or Kevin Hart or Bill Burr. These guys, I laugh out loud. And I respect what they do, but it's just, I can't do it.
No,
And
I get it.
there's times I wish I could. In fact, I always joked with my friends. I said, the last show I ever do, I'm going to say everything I ever wanted to say on stage. And my true friend, my dear friend went, no, you won't. He
No.
said, you'll start and then you're going to go. And he's right. It's like, sometimes I think we get so caught up in trying to be somebody else that we forget to be ourselves. And I'll tell you a story about that. When we started Blue Collar, I think we went 5 years, 6 years. The first two, I didn't even enjoy it because I was too busy trying to be Jeff Foxworthy.
Really?
Well, Jeff was the only measuring stick I had to compare myself to because, and he'd gone through the stratosphere with his popularity and all well-deserved. And I thought, well, that's the way I got to be, not realizing that I was forgetting who I was. And of all people, Ron White reminded me of that. And I don't even know to this day if he knows he did. We'd finished the show and we were sitting at a lounge at the hotel. And he goes, Bill, I remember a day, because I remember I was in the room the first day Ron went on stage. And I said, his kid's got something special. At the time he was a kid. And we would play, we always teased each other about following each other. And one that night in the lounge, he goes, Bill, I remember a time when I'd go up on stage and just gut the room. And then you'd come up with that slow delivery. And 2 minutes later, it was Ron Who. And as soon as he said that, a light bulb went off and I go, wow, I forgot to be I forgot to be Bill. I forgot to be what got me here to this level.
Wow.
And I think that happens a lot in this business. I think, especially in the acting thing, you get caught up in what you haven't done.
Sure.
And, when I look back at my career, I've achieved every goal I ever set in front of myself. Platinum albums, which I never even knew existed. I've done TV shows. I've done movies. I've been on one of the biggest comedy tours that ever you'll never see again, a tour like that. And, Grammy nominations and I look back and I go, wow, you've forgotten to really enjoy all the things that you've accomplished. And, if I said I'm stopping tomorrow, nobody could say, oh, you almost made it.
No, I don't think so at all.
But it's interesting how you find yourself drinking from that well of like, I wish I'd have done this, or how come I didn't get this? And, to realize that there's thousands of comedians that are looking at me going, I would do it. I would take his career right now.
Yeah, I think so. And that brings up an interesting conversation. I was going to mention this later. I want to talk about Blue Collar because you were part of several iterations of it. There was the 4 of you, then 3, and then down to 2, and then back to 3, and then you would put some other people in there. Again, I agree with you. I think that's lightning in a bottle, so to speak, as far as like how amazing that was. When you're in the middle of that and you start having conversations about, okay, let's end this, let's bring it to an end. How do you come to that place to decide that you've done it all with that tour and it's time to just sort of move on and just continue to pursue your solo act that you've had so much success with?
That is a great question. I think for us, we just knew, we had played every major city. And I think the promoters did a great job of not burning us out. In other words, we didn't leave mad at each other. It wasn't like a Van Halen breakup. It was, I always look at it more like the Eagles. Like, I can't tell you for a fact that it's done. I can't tell you for a fact it's going to come back either. But if it was brought up again, I think we all might say, let's do another year, because it was fun. It was, I mean, if you can imagine being on the road with 3 of your best friends, you're playing sold out arenas, they're throwing stupid money at. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that because comedy is very much a lone wolf kind of business.
Yes.
and that's good and bad. It's good because you get to establish yourself. It's bad because when you're by yourself and you're on stage, you got 2,000 new best friends, but then they all go home and you go back to the room at the Ramada Inn or Holiday Inn or whatever, and there's nobody there. It's a hard, and I think that's why you see a lot of substance abuse and alcoholism in comedy, is because it's killing the pain. And I think we didn't want to get to that point with Blue Collar where we didn't enjoy seeing each other. And, I think now that some time has passed, I think maybe people are going to start talking about it. And I hope they do. If they came to me, I'd say, yeah, I'm back in. And I'd say, let's do, my suggestion would be, let's do a year and let's pick a charity in each major city that will donate a certain amount of the proceeds, because nobody's doing it for money anymore. I mean, that's the thing. Everybody's in that group has made their mark.
100%.
And so I hope they do. But yeah, it was difficult. It was hard. I mean, I remember the first few times I went out by myself after the tour ended, that I was thinking, oh man, I kind of missed even the pettiness that, because we're like brothers. We're like four brothers. You always wanted the other guy to be successful as long as you were too, and we kidded each other and teased each other, and we all stay in touch. So it's, I hope someday that maybe we can revisit it, because it sure was fun. I mean, as a comedian, we held the record for selling out the Nashville Arena in 24 hours, and then we got beat by Bon Jovi. Now there's no two terms. Those are two terms that never go together. Blue collar comedy and Bon Jovi.
Well, I think that, again, I've been a lover of comedy forever. I've interviewed a lot of comedians, and I get the part about where they perform. That's why Jim Gaffigan always talks about he brings his family with him everywhere he goes, because it's like you have that high for an hour, however long you're performing, you're bringing the roof down, and then you said everybody goes home. And now it's like just you and the four walls of the hotel, whatever it is, and now you have grandkids. And so there's just so many different layers to it all. And it is a very lone wolf. And I don't think there has been, I think the kings of comedy, DL and all those guys, they did their thing for a little bit, but I don't think they toured so much like you and Ron and all the other guys. And you've all had successful careers. I mean, I was watching some YouTube clips the other day of Ron when he first started An Evening at the Improv, and had the long curly hair and was up there, and you still see the same him and the same you when you were starting out. So I thank you for providing all those years, of comedy and things. And you've been doing it so long, and now we're kind of in a pandemic and everything has stopped for everybody. Have you been able to do any sort of dates at this point, or is everything just on a complete halt for you, like most of your colleagues?
Basically, my work stopped.
Okay.
I have a show coming up February 27th. It's the first one I've done since last February.
Oh, wow.
And that it's what's sad is at a time when we really needed comedy, we couldn't provide it. Just because you couldn't have groups of people getting together. And I don't know, Brett, what the new normal is going to be. I don't know what this show's going to look like. I will tell you this, that if I was starting over right now, I don't know that I would make it, because there's just not the avenues that there used to be, and to be able to find physical stand-up work, where you go to clubs or whatever, because they're shut down. They're not even, some of them are open, but it's on a limited seating basis. And, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope that it comes back. My gut is that it will come back. I guess for me, the question is, how long will I keep going? If it's at a reduced capacity, and, we're not, the other problem you're going to run into, or not you, but the performers are going to run into, is if we do get to a point where we're opening back up, these promoters have got a boatload of acts that want to get out and play. So it's going to, that's why during this pandemic, I've done everything as much as I can to try to stay out there and visible. Whether it's I was doing something, this dumb little thing called treadmill talks, where I would literally get on the treadmill and just do a Facebook Live. And it was just to keep my face in front of the fans so that when we do get a comeback, they haven't forgotten, or not forgotten, but they have, so that when the promoters start putting these dates together, they go, well, let's put Engvall in this one.
Sure.
But yeah, if I really have a lot of respect for the guys that are just getting started, because it's going to be a rough road.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody about that the other day, and he was like, I don't know if I were starting out today and I had gone out to Hollywood or New York or somewhere and was just trying to get started, I might turn around and go back home because,
Yeah.
there's not the idea, because you still would go to the clubs and work out material. You have to do that. So you have to keep that muscle moving and in the gym, as they say, and keep things rolling. And so now I think for you though, you've been at it for so long that it would probably be easy to get on stage and sort of start doing some new stuff, maybe some greatest hits, and then throw in some other things. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. I tell you, I've seen
Yeah.
people do the Zoom shows. I've seen people do the drive-in theater shows. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews from a lot of comedians about it. So, but I like the
Yeah.
fact that you've kind of gotten to a place where you're like, well, if this is it, this is it. I don't want it to be it, but if it
Yeah.
is,
Well, Brett, it's funny because I did one show at the depot in Salt Lake, where we live, and it seats 1,200 people, and they sold 200 tickets. And this was probably 3 or 4 months ago.
okay,
And I got to be honest with you, I don't know that the audience noticed, but I was nervous. It was rusty. And I'll tell you, when I knew that it was rusty was when I was getting ready to end the show with my "Here's your signs," my key thing that's gotten me where I'm at. I couldn't remember one of them. And
really?
I had to go, hey, you guys got a favorite? Here's your sign. You want to?
You could get away with that because you're Bill Engvall, but I don't know. Maybe some other people might not. I don't know. I guess it
Yeah,
depends on how
it's
far
going to
along you
be.
are.
I hope that I'm sure this. It's if I literally had 4 shows in a row, I'd be back in sync again. But like in Surprise, Arizona, where I'm doing the show, I think there's 2 shows. I'll say this: I'd be willing to bet the second show is better than the first show.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to check in with your publicist and ask how it goes, because I'm very curious to see how I've been doing this with all the comics. I've been reaching out and saying, hey, can I just talk to this person? And it's worked out because I like to hear, how it goes for you. I've heard a lot of different things about how they're going to be able to get people into theaters. There's going to be these COVID passports that people will have to provide if they got their shots, if they have their testing done, and it's going to be an app on your phone, just like you check into the airport. There's a lot of chatter, but I hope I'm in California. So we've been getting hit the hardest just with all of this madness. And I'm hoping that we come out of it by the summertime, because
Yeah, me too.
I miss live entertainment, and I didn't go to a lot of concerts per se. I did a lot of comedy shows, and I miss it. And now I'm like, well, I want to go to a concert now because I didn't before. Because it's like,
Well, yeah. I
you
mean,
can't do it now.
I honestly believe that part of this whole civil unrest right now is directly related to the fact that people have been confined, and they're
100%.
just they don't know what to do, and they're lashing out but the problem is they're lashing out at the wrong things. But I think it's and I totally get it. When this thing first started, I remember saying, talking to my friends, go, yeah, it'll probably be a month and we'll be back at this. And, I got to be honest with you, at this point, I'm tired of it. I'm ready. As my friend, you always said, COVID's drunk and he needs to go home. It's
Yes.
like, but I just hope that we come out of this better people. I hope that maybe that pendulum will start swinging back a little bit. And I hope that but I think there's going to, when shows start up again, I think you're going to see a thing. It's going to be hard to get a ticket because people are just so ready to get out of the house.
Yes, and I'm sure your wife's probably ready for you to be
Oh,
out of the house. You used to joke about that all the time in your comedy about being home too much, and now I
yeah,
bet you're home like a lot more than she probably ever anticipated.
yeah. Listen, I'm not going to lie to you. There's been some, tense moments,
Oh, I'm
like tense,
sure.
but because it's like you said, for 35 years, 40 years, I always teased her, I'm the perfect husband. I said, I go on the road, I pick up a check, I come home, I drop it off, I leave again.
Yeah.
Now I'm the guy that doesn't ever leave the home. There's no check coming in. And what do you want to stare at each other all day? And so, we found, but the thing is, Gail and I have been married now for 39 years. And we found a way to work. Found a way to work around this. We understand it. Sometimes I just want to, I'll just go for a walk, or she will, or she'll go play golf, or I will. And we found that that's what works for us. But yeah, I as she said, I know we had been talking about kind of easing into retirement. She goes, I wasn't ready for it just to end. I go, me either, sister.
Well, it's funny. I'm sitting here as you're talking, thinking about stories that you used to tell when your kids had first left the house, and she used to tell you that she wanted to go on walks and go look at art and go to museums, and you kind of scoffed at all of that. But now the kids are grown and they're gone, and now you don't have a job, so to speak, because you can't tour and perform. So
Right.
literally, again, art imitating life a little bit, being stuck at home. But
And actually now I can't even go see art because it's all closed down.
oh my goodness, Bill, that is too much. Well, you've had such an amazing career, and you already alluded to this. You've done it all, really. You've won so many awards. You've had all these tours. Is there anything that you would have done differently at all, or would you have just kept it all the same? Even going back to when you first started and were beginning this whole journey of comedy and being funny and making people laugh.
Yeah, if in looking back, one of the things I would have done is I'd have gone to LA earlier than I did, just because I was always kind of a day late and a dollar short. Like in the 80s when they were giving sitcoms to almost every
Sure.
stand-up. I didn't get out to LA till towards the end of the 80s, and they had kind of moved on. Other than that, stand-up wise, I don't think I would have done anything different. I try to tell young comedians that, my friends and peers used to always laugh at me because I did every TV show I did Evening at the Improv. I did Stand Up Spotlight. I did this. And they go, why do you do all these shows? I go, because you got to get your name known. Because there's just too many good people out there that, that you had to work around and work over. So the only thing I had to be able to do was to just work as hard and as much as I could, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier about being I miss my kids walking and talking for the first time. I didn't miss birthdays, but there was days, in the early touring days, I would be gone for 4 or 5 weeks at a time.
Sure.
And that's hard. But I had to do what I had to do. And it's funny because as my kids are older now, each one of them I've apologized to for not being around. And they both said the same thing. They said, hey, it was your job, so I got to tell you, that's been the biggest contributor to my success is my family. I mean, I don't know. I have so many friends that ended up divorced and, bad things happened. With their wives were doing this or they were doing this. And, I'm the people who've made it. If you look, most of them, the family life is solid.
100%. And even when you've talked about your family and your act, it's always been in a positive and loving way. It's
Right.
never been disparaging. I'm sure your kids don't look back at your work and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you told this story or that story." Or
I
why
will
would you?
tell you, I will tell you one story about that. That the only time anybody ever complained was my daughter.
Okay.
And after she explained it to me, I got it. But I used to do a joke about when the how to wash tag on their underwear is
Oh
bigger than
yeah.
the underwear. Well, apparently one day she was walking down the hall in high school and some kid who she didn't even know walked up to her and said, "Hey, I heard your dad talking about your underwear." So she wasn't real thrilled about that.
Probably not. Yeah. But I mean, if that's the one thing out of the millions of hours of comedy, I
Yeah.
guess that's the worst, and that's okay. Well, Bill, thank you so much. This has been just a pleasure. I've been a fan for a long time. I remember back in the day listening to your albums when I was in the military on a guard gate, talking about your IG Joes and the fish tanks and just all of the, I mean, everything going all the way back, Dorkfish on is just, I've heard it all. And one day, hopefully, can, as my kid gets older, get him interested in comedy as much as I love it. And yeah, I'm excited to see your arc finish up on Last Man Standing, and hopefully we get back to some sort of normalcy and you can start touring again. I think that's what the world needs right now.
Well, thank you, Brett. And I will tell you that this has been really fun for me too, because a lot of these things you do, and it's just, uh, they want you just to be joking. And a lot of I think people get more out of really hearing what it's like and hearing the real people. And this has been a real joy for me, and I'm thrilled that you reached out to me, and we're happy to do it again. Maybe who knows? Maybe one day there'll be a Reverend Paul spinoff, and we can do it again.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for being with me today, Bill. You have a great rest of your day.